myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It's the three Ronnies, me, Malcolm and Gibbo, all done in our specs tonight. I'm more like Harold Lloyd, I think, lads. You can be the two Ronnies. It's good night from us and it's good night from him. Good night. But anyway, tonight we're going to have a little bit of a season review and then we'll come to your comments tonight. We're going to do this with everybody on the show this week. Apologies for those of you tuning in expecting to see Ross Gregory tonight. Ross isn't well and Gibbo and Malcolm wanted to do the show a little bit earlier this week. So it's actually all worked out great. So without further ado, let's get straight into the topics that we've got for last season. Best signing, Malcolm.
I think it's a toss-up. What happened in January, it was the most necessary event I think that I've ever seen Newcastle experience, because it had been so horrendous before that. And in signing Trippier very early in January, it had an effect on not just the dressing room, but St James Park generally, and everybody who sat in there to watch football. And what I noticed about Trippier was that he was always ordering people about. He was telling them what to do. He was, and he seemed quite bossy. But the beauty of what he did further to that was that having given a quick instruction to a player, when the ball went out of play, he would go over to that player, put his arm around the shoulder and just say, right, the reason why I did that and what have you. And he was giving the full explanation as to why, so that it sort of opened the other players' thinking up. And I thought he was absolutely terrific in that wonderful attitude that he had. And it started to just flow through the team, through the club. And I thought that he was absolutely critical and became almost the linchpin for Newcastle to get out of the horrendous state they were in. So I'm going to say Trippier, albeit that Bruno has been absolutely sensational, but I've probably got him somewhere else on the list. So the best signing for me was that first one, Trippier, early on, and everything changed from the worst to so much better.
Okay, John, same question to you. Best signing of the season.
Yeah, I can totally follow Malcolm's thoughts on Trippier, but for injuries, impact would have been even more sensational had he been able to play all the games. He was a terrific signing and he set the standard. I've got to give Byrne an honourable mention because he came in and has been so honest to goodness and has been a typical big-hearted Geordie and really steadied the centre of the defence, which had been leaking early in the season. I would go for Bruno because I've got this amazing thing about loving flair in my Newcastle sides and also in my trousers when I used to go to Malcolm's shop. Always like a pair of flares. But so I would go for Bruno because he was sold to me when I spoke to people in France and elsewhere as a defensive midfield player. I don't expect him to get forward too much. He scored 5 goals in 11 starts plus 6 sub appearances. That is as good as Willock a year ago. on the impact he made from midfield when he first come. But I'm going to go outside the box, guys, on the best signing and put them all to one side with great recommendations and say Eddie Howe. Because if we hadn't signed Eddie Howe up to start with, none of this would have happened. If we'd got Emery, it probably wouldn't have happened. If we'd got Gerrard or Lampard, it probably wouldn't have happened. Eddie Howe has been the biggest wonderful surprise that any club can get, because he was a manager that had been criticised to a certain extent. Yes, he took, but this is nationally I'm talking about. Yes, he took Bournemouth from the old 4th Division to the Premier League. Wonderful. But people would say, well, that was only with a club of Bournemouth size, 10,000 gates. Could he handle a club of Newcastle size, 50,000 gates? Some people said it hadn't been a success at Burnley. He has come here and been sensational. He has come here and been the whole spark that has got everything organised. He's changed the training. He's changed the thinking. He's changed the confidence. Tactically, he's changed things. He's brought a work ethic into the club where they didn't work at all half the time under Steve Bruce. And he's brought a calmness to the club. And so for him, I know it's slightly off-piste to name the best signing is not a player, but I would go for Eddie Howe.
I think that's it. I think it's great. Yeah, go on, Mal.
Yeah. Yes. He came in, Eddie Howe, and I don't think that the players could have been any lower than they actually were, and so it really is quite surprising how quickly he got it turned round. That for me was quite phenomenal, and also I believe, John, that the club are wanting him to sign a new and longer contract.
Yeah,
which I think is terrific news, and that is a football club showing absolute faith and belief in their manager, considering that he's only been here a matter of months, and already they're saying, "You're the man for us. There's a new contract." And also great that his family's travelled north. They've got themselves settled in, the house hunting, and they want to get settled into domestically and what have you.
The big thing for me, Malcolm, is when you get a new regime at Newcastle, you get Ashley leaving, because he could be the worst signing of the last decade and a half for Newcastle. You've got to get things right off the pitch to get them right on the pitch. Yes. And so far, so good. The new Newcastle owners have done terrific. The PR's been good. The enthusiasm's been good. The communication with fans has been terrific. We've got a very, very good manager in Eddie Howe, who's certainly done better than Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard, who are the two big names that were around at the same time as him. Mm-hmm. So that has gone right. And Dan Ashworth now coming in as director of sport is another thing. So the three things off the park, the owners, the manager, and the director of football, look as if they've been spot on. If you get those three right, you've got a great chance on the park. Get those three wrong and you've got no chance on the park. So, I'm not only pleased with January, when I thought Bruno, Byrne and Trippier were absolutely outstanding and helped change everything, but we've got it right off the park as well, and that is comforting to me.
Yes. Yeah. I fully understand, John, and agree.
Okay, next category. Most improved player, Mal.
I've got two, and I would sit with John in the press box, and I would literally call them worse than donkeys, and because they hadn't, seemingly they just hadn't got a clue, they hadn't got any ability, they couldn't control it, they couldn't kick it, and it just left me scratching my head as to why on earth they had been brought into the club. And those two, I think it's probably absolutely obvious to anybody listening to this right now, that it was Joe Linton and ML Kraft, and the two of them, on the departure of Bruce, they just suddenly, just by a bit of careful attention, moving Joe Linton back into midfield a little, he finished up, from the beginning of this year to the end of the season, he finished up with some absolutely remarkable stats, and I found myself, I was having to pinch myself to believe them, but one of those stats was that from January the 1st to the end of the season, he dispossessed the opposition more than any other midfielder in the country. He got more tackles in than any other midfielder in the country. And he just became a revelation, I think. And this was a player who literally was becoming a laughingstock, a total laughingstock, and he turned it around. And well done him. Well done him for having the courage to really dig in and get himself out of the dreadful hole that his first 18 months got him into. And then Emil Kraft, I just looked here. I thought, you cannot play. You can't defend. You don't know how to play as a fullback. And he turned all of that round. And when Trippier was injured and Kraft came in, and I thought, oh dear me. And he just showed himself to be a completely different player to what we had seen previously. Now, please, somebody, if you know the answer to this, let me know, because I really would like to know.
I think the answer, Malcolm, I think the answer is Eddie Howe and Steve Bruce.
Well, hey, yes, is it down to Eddie Howe? Or is it just down to the player? And that he's responded, maybe.
I think
it's got to be both. Yeah.
I think it's both, mate, because I think obviously you've got to give credit to the players, and we've said that, both of us, for quite a while. You must give credit to the players because they've got to want to learn,
without a doubt,
got to be willing to learn, etc. But you've also got to say that Eddie Howe, either in arms round the shoulder, and Steve Bruce had a great reputation for man management, but he didn't seem to get into players' heads, change things, etc., etc. We know what's made the difference with Joe Linton. It's a change in position. With Kraft, I think it's suddenly having a manager that really, really believes in you, and in him thinking, this manager believes in me, he's going to give me a real chance, etc., etc. And I mean, I couldn't agree more with Malcolm on two players he picked out, Joe Linton and Kraft. I've got to give an honourable mention to Shaw, because while I always thought he was good on the ball and he was composed and could look cool, I thought he made mistakes. In the previous regime, Shaw made mistake after mistake after mistake per game. Maybe he's only won a game, but always seemed to produce a goal against us. So he gets an honourable mention for me with Kraft. Fraser looked a different player when he was fit in terms of body language, not in terms of ability, in terms of body language. Before he looked as if he didn't want to be here. He looked totally indifferent.
Right.
He looked as if he didn't want to be here. All of a sudden, he's buzzing about like a busy bee in this new setup. Incredible. But my most improved player has got to be Joe Linton, because as a centre forward, as Malcolm said, we have been brought up on number 9 legends. We adore number 9s that score goals. Joe Linton was desperate, and you know, whoever bought him and said he was a number 9 and then give him the number 9 shirt, when that shirt in this club is a legendary shirt, got it so wrong it's untrue. Now he is looking a colossus. I thought he looked weak as a centre forward. He looks so strong and powerful as a midfield player now that it's untrue. And you know, to change position and to do that and to revel in it, and he didn't get bitter and twisted. He looks a joy. He looks as if he's thrilled. Whenever Steve's travelling away, he's the first at the end of the game or whatever to come over to the fans, or if he scores a goal, he runs from one end of the pitch to the other end of the pitch to celebrate with the fans. He is by far the most staggering thing that I've seen. Kraft has done well. Shaw's done well. Fraser's done well. But they're playing in that proper position. This fella's changed position and has revived his career. He didn't look worth 40 pence as a centre forward. He looks like a £40 million player now as a midfielder. So for me, Joe Linton most improved.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's an easy one, that. I've got to be perfectly honest, but the best signing one was interesting as well. Okay, we'll move on. Best match or performance of the season, Mal?
Well, I don't even have to go back before Christmas, do I? That's
no.
On this one.
Worst match, you would have to go back before Christmas.
Yeah, I just need recent memory. That's all. For me, and it was for a number of reasons. The best match, and I suppose the best performance, was Newcastle against Arsenal. That Newcastle completely dominated. Do you know that Arsenal didn't cross the halfway line for the first 14 minutes? That's a hell of a thing. That Newcastle, they were pushing, pressing, and they kept Arsenal back. And Arsenal are renowned for their good possession and passing movement and what have you. And Newcastle, they just absolutely strangled the life out of them right from the word go. But and from there, it was an emphatic win, I thought, for Newcastle. And Arsenal, they didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. They were completely lost out there. But the real what made it the very best for me was the crowd, that they got behind the team in such a way that they were lifting them. The noise in the stadium throughout the whole of that match, and I played at St James Park hundreds of times. I have never known such an atmosphere as that night. And there's been great cup matches. There's been great European matches. I've been to Wembley finals with Newcastle, but nothing like that. The atmosphere was absolutely electric and had me on the edge of my seat for the noise and atmosphere as much as what I was seeing happening on the field. And it all just got together. And I just sat and I thought, we can go places with this. This is something serious to oh no.
It's okay, Mal, we've still got you.
Well, do you want to come on to me while Mal sorts himself out?
Go for it, because Mal's had an issue with his computer. His computer, unfortunately, died on him last week. He's back on the old one, which means that we used to have Billy the dog. We were blaming it on him. And then there was the computer. So, yes,
Malcolm's the computer.
Malcolm's going to be in and out like the one of those weather clocks, you know, when they used to come out like backwards and forwards like that. He's going to be like that. But go on.
Going to be like the fiddler's elbow.
Your match of the season or your performance of the season?
Yeah, it's got to be Arsenal 2-0 without a shadow of doubt. We played well in lots of games second half of the season, Steve, but it was for periods. There was for other periods in the same game where we hung on, where we survived, where we kept our face just above the lapping water. But Arsenal, from 1 minute to 90 minutes, was absolutely terrific. As it happened, I happened to be at Arsenal in the November time for the first game. I went down to see my daughter, who lives in London, and went to the Arsenal game. Eddie Howe was in charge, but it's before we got up and running under Eddie, and it was chalk and cheese. That match and the return match up here was absolutely chalk and cheese. And Mal was saying, when he was asking, you know, about what's the best match, he said, well, you don't need a long memory because we don't have to go back before Christmas, do we? And that's absolutely true. And it was Arsenal. But if you also turn that on its head and think of the worst moments for, as a Newcastle fan, which we all are this season, I mean, there was 100 before Christmas. I mean, obviously, January the 8th, when we lost at home to Cambridge in the FA Cup, third tier club. We were second bottom of the league at that time. We went 14 matches without a win, which was horrendous. Nobody's got out of that. We did. There was November the 30th. I mean, I've remembered the dates when we played Norwich at home, who were quite awful. And we only drew 1-1 because we played with 10 men from the 9th minute. I mean, the first half of the season was so bad that when things got good, which was 2022, it took us to the last match when we played Burnley to complete a double, because we got so many poor results in the first half of the season. There was never a double on. Our first win after 14 matches without a win was home to Burnley 1-0, if you remember, guys. And then on the last day, we won at Burnley. That was our first double. The first half of the season was so bad that we couldn't get a double until the last game. And that sums up, for me, the Newcastle season. Plenty worse moments, as Malcolm was smiling about. Plenty worse moments from August to the end of the year. Best match, without a shadow of doubt, because it lasted the full 90 minutes. Arsenal 2-0.
Yeah, I think you both agree on that. Mal, did you want anything more to say on that? I mean, Gibbo went off and mentioned some of the worst performances. Of course, a lot of them before Christmas.
All of them before Christmas.
What I would go back to was that I have never, ever, in all of my years associated with football, I have never, ever heard a dressing room of players complaining to the manager that they're not fit enough, that they don't want days off like they're getting, that they want to be worked a lot harder, and Steve Bruce didn't respond to them, didn't respond at all, and he was basically, well, really, with the few days that he was there at the club, he was a part-time manager, and getting home as often as he could, and aren't we seeing the difference? You know, that no sooner as Eddie Howe got his situation sorted out at the club, up come his family and they go house hunting. Steve Bruce never went house hunting at all. He had no intention of staying up here on Tyneside at all. And and I just and what so I just found it so incredible that no sooner had he left Newcastle, he got another job. Oh, that's a club really doing its homework, isn't it? And West Brom, he took over when they were 5th, and before you knew it, they were 12th.
Oh, quite staggering.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, there hasn't been. I can't remember anything that's been so amazing as the Newcastle turnaround. I mean, it really has. Malcolm, we heard about West Brom, who stayed up, I think it was under Brian Robson, when they'd had a poor start to the season, etc. We've seen sides who have been tailed off, stay up 4th bottom or 5th bottom. But for goodness sake, we went to halfway. And with form, Malcolm,
it wasn't just
the start of the season 2022, we would have been in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Yes, we would have been in the Champions
League.
Where we were in the Chumps League before that. It was
for much of the season in this year. Newcastle were actually running second to Liverpool on points.
Oh, quite staggering. And even at the end, Malcolm, even at the end of the season, we were the 4th best points gatherers in 2022, which is a Champions League position, behind Manchester City, 4 titles in 5 years, Liverpool, who had been in for the quadruple, and Spurs, who had qualified for the Champions League. So you had 3 successful clubs and us as the team of 2022. Now, that's not, we get all these stats and things, and it says most informed team, and then we get the stats. It's always over 6 games, Malcolm. It's always the last 6 games, most informed this. No, this is the most informed teams of 2022. And we were 4th. And before that, we were bottom. Quite incredible. The most staggering turnaround. And I hope, as far as Newcastle is concerned,
John, can you recall anything quite like it?
Going back, Malcolm, to before you coming to the club, I can't recall Newcastle's season changing as dramatically as that at any stage in the whole of my life of following the club. Nothing has changed as much as it's changed this time, and we should emphasize that.
I can't recall it happening at any other club. I think it's been the most incredible change around in a club's form that's ever happened in the history of football.
And by the way, I hope, as far as Newcastle United is concerned, I never see it again. Because I don't want to be down there to rise. I don't want to. It was wonderful. It was marvelous, and I'll never forget it. But don't let it happen again, guys. We don't need it. We'll settle for steady away, up and away. Much better, much more not heart-wrenching. So, let's not say it again. We'll just keep it as a happy memory.
Yeah, big shout out to our sponsors, Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from Gareth, Nathan and the boys, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies all at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to the lads at skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website is www.skipsandbins.com, and easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks also to Click Eye. Meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a clear run device near you. Available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Neil at Media Arts for the video content. If you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. If you hit the bell, which is underneath the video as well, you have the option to get notifications when we go live. A lot of you seem to miss some of the live shows because you don't get the notification. You can select all and it will notify you when we go live on each of the shows, usually half an hour before. We're available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Goes up 24 hours after the show finishes on YouTube. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath the video, or go to the website and you can become a cult member by going to NUFCmatters.com, looking for membership pack, or putting your camera of your smartphone over this QR code. Now it takes you directly to the site. If you do that, you get a cup, a pen, and a scarf, and a membership card, an entry into the monthly draw. And this new monthly draw that John from QTech has supplied is for a season ticket next season. A season ticket in the Platinum Club, or a cash equivalent. So if you win it and you've got a season ticket, you will get £1,000. So it's a big chance. So get your membership to the cult today. You must enter via the website for that one, though. As a subscriber, you get a car sticker. Just simply email John at NUFCmatters.com. And don't forget as well, NUFC Fans Food Bank rely on your money during the summer this way. The Matchday Bucket. Go to the website nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and you can make a virtual donation. The summer do is quickly coming upon us. Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin live at Shearer's Bar Friday the 24th of June. Tickets £12 from nufcmatters.com. Andy will be on the show at the weekend talking with Mick. I think it's coming on for 10 or 15 minutes on Saturday. So you'll get a chance to ask Andy maybe a couple of questions, and he will give us a little bit of info on what he's up to these days. But don't forget, get your tickets, £12, nufcmatters.com. And it's Shearer's Bar, 24th of June. The Tynemouth Surf Cafe event is sold out now with Malcolm and Gibbo. So if you are planning on going to see them, you will have to wait until we announce another date at another venue. But there will be one coming soon. Don't forget as well, enter the raffle. Shearer Ball, still available. Tickets are $2.99, $99 to buy. Go to nufcmatters.com to enter today. Vince Smith, who's in the chat, will tell you, he always does, these are lovely balls, collector's issues, collector's items, and they are all signed by Alan Shearer. And last but by no means least, the charity screening of the documentary I did a couple of years ago, The Crazed Gangsters Behind Bars, takes place at the Irish Centre. Thanks to Chris Hall, who does the fans forum on a Monday. He has bought 5. John has also bought 20 from QTech, and they're giving them away to people in the chat. So those are regular viewers. If you would like to go and take advantage of getting a free ticket to come along on the 11th of June and watch this documentary and meet us and the gang, it is 12 o'clock and the screening starts at 12:30, and it is at the Irish Centre on Saturday the 11th of June. Basically, if you want to book a ticket, they're only a £5, and you can go to nufcmatters.com. All proceeds go to St Bede's Palliative Care Unit at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, who cared for me mum. And you've still got time to vote for your player of the season. Get your votes in. It's free to do so. Go to nufcmatters.com, look for player of the season, and place your vote today. We'll be announcing that, the winner of that on Friday. And the T-shirt, which will be signed by Sam Fender, is still pinned at the top of my Twitter, at Steve Wraith. Get yourself onto there and place a bid for that. All proceeds for that T-shirt go to the food bank, as always. And just to say, we raised, lads, you probably don't know this, an amazing £840 for a woman who is terminally ill from cancer. And from our perspective, that was just great to do. You know, we've got a wonderful community on NUFC Matters, never stops giving. And we just want to thank everybody for doing that. Okay, on to the moment of the season, Malcolm. This can be anything. It could be a personal moment. It could be a moment on the pitch. It could be a moment off the pitch. What is your Newcastle United moment of the season, Mal?
I missed it. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. It was Steve Bruce's last step out of St James's Park. From there, Newcastle just took off. That
Classic.
was my
That was a very
moment.
precise answer, big man. Very precise. Funny enough, I was about to say, Malcolm, and you stole my thunder. I was about to say that my moment of the season was seeing Mike Ashley's exhaust pipe disappear over the town bridge. So basically, we're almost going down the same route.
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
that is what changed everything. I mean, hope, no hope and Bob Hope. I mean, that is what we had for a decade and a half. I mean, if we look at other things, having a bit of fun, and I mean, Malcolm was quite serious with his answer, although we had a smile about it, and I was quite serious with mine about Mr. Ashley disappearing into the wide blue yonder, because that changed everything. Other fun things that happened that were my moments of the season. I mean, War Flags is my biggest moment of the season. And that wasn't a single moment, although, like Malcolm, if I had to give a single moment with War Flags and the atmosphere, it would be the Arsenal game. It would be the atmosphere at the Arsenal game was quite something else. It really was. Malcolm's been around Newcastle for so many years, it's untrue. I have also, plus a few more before Malcolm arrived, and that was as fabulous as it gets. But overall, I cannot pay a great enough compliment to War Flags for what happened at Newcastle United. Because, like everything Newcastle does, the rest of the country ridicule it. When we were taken over, it was all wrong because it was the Saudis. When we were appointed Eddie Howe, it was all wrong because we hadn't gone for a big name. When we bought players, it was all wrong because we bought players like Byrne and Trippier and took Target on loan when we should be going and getting Neymar and whoever. I mean, absolutely absurd. But everything Newcastle does is wrong to outsiders. And when we were told, oh, well, the flags can't make any difference to Newcastle. The flags don't play. It's just a joke. No, it isn't. The flags become worth a goal to Newcastle because the atmosphere was phenomenal. People forget the atmosphere was absolutely toxic before that with Ashley and Bruce. The atmosphere was toxic. The atmosphere was so bad, it was worth a goal to the opposition. The atmosphere is so good now, it's worth a goal to us. And that's been the difference. And the place, St. James's Park, has been transformed. When War Flags come back in because we were a new regime, etc., we got them in the Gallagher end, and we were all impressed. It was nice. It was good. Then it spread throughout the season, didn't it? It spread to the other side of the ground. Then it eventually went to engulf the whole ground. And it set a template. Before the game started, the atmosphere, the feeling, the temperature had risen so high. And as long as Newcastle United started well, it kept at that level. And you know what? If we looked like flagging a little bit at some stage, the crowd carried us to the second wind that we needed to get over the line on victories. And so War Flags for me is the other moment of the season. And I guess in a funny old way, looking down from the press box and seeing Amanda's hubby with this huge flag on a massive stick, swinging it round above his head, the NUFC War Flags, what a terrific moment that was. Because when we had owners trying to identify with the fans previously, it was Mike Ashley thinking that wearing a black and white striped shirt in the in the director's box would identify with the fans, when all we knew he was doing was trying to flog his own show, his own shirts in Sports Direct. This was trying to identify with the fans. This was trying to say, we know what you want. We will attempt to give you what we want because we empathize with you. And that's what it also meant when they went round the pitch at the end of the season. Again, should directors, etc., go round the pitch? Yes, in this case, they should, because this case was unique, it was different, everything it sparked from the takeover, and therefore you deserve a round of applause, as Eddie Howe does and as the players do. War flags for me, moment of the season.
Yeah. Also, John, just as you were speaking, a thought that I've had a number of times over the past few years came to mind, and that is that we have experienced a whole host of people and organisations and other clubs against the regime that has bought Newcastle. But look what they've done with it. It seemed that football, the people who run football, the whole of football, they were just happy to see Newcastle being run into the ground.
Yeah.
And I think, and now that it's not being run into the ground, quite the reverse, you're all complaining.
Yeah.
I just think how stupid that is.
It's absolutely crazy, Malcolm. But I mean, we've been used to before when it was rubbish and when it was horrible. We were told. Can you imagine? We were actually told, guys, as supporters, during the 14 years of Ashley, we were told we're too demanding. We expected too much. We hadn't won the flipping league since 1927. We'd never won a domestic cup since 1955. We'd never won out since 1969. But we demanded things, and we ought to have known our place and be grateful for what we had. Now everybody's running terrified of what we might become. And instead of saying,
yes, they are.
Don't Geordies deserve at long last? Everybody tells us how wonderful the Geordie fans are. We get Gary Neville telling us. We get Jamie Carragher telling us. We used to come and love playing up here because Geordie fans are so passionate. Yeah, they like playing up here because they won up here. That's why they like playing up here. Now they ain't going to win up here, so stick that in your pipe. That's why they loved it. They loved it because they won up here. Geordie fans are wonderful. They support the club, and then we win. Now they support the club, and we win, Newcastle United. Hard lines, guys. Our turn. We care not.
Hard cheese is the
hard
say.
cheddar, as they say, Stephen. Hard cheddar, mate.
Very good. Okay, two more categories. Goal of the season, Mal. You are the right person to judge this, I think, amongst everybody we have on this show. What was your goal of the season?
Well, do you know, prior to Christmas, I can't remember a solitary goal anybody scored.
That's because there wasn't any.
That was the reason, John. I knew there was something. But over the last few months of this year, there have been some quite extraordinary goals created, made, and tucked away. Joe Linton, when he flashed into the box, and I think that was against Brentford, wasn't it? But there was one that just really stuck out, and it was just, I felt a little moment of genius, and it was the way in which Bruno gymnastically backheeled the ball into the net. He knew exactly what he was doing. It was hugely gymnastic in the way that he went about it, but it was so effective, and so I'd go with him for that goal. But there were a number of others that certainly I would give high marks to. And Trippier's free kick. All of a sudden, wow, we saw that we had a free kick expert.
Did it twice, Malcolm, didn't he?
Did it twice, yeah. Yes. And then got booted for it.
Yes.
Because the fellow really did it to keep him out for all those weeks.
Yeah.
Gibbo, your goal of the season?
Funny enough, Malcolm, and I bow to his judgment anyway, because probably he scored a few for us, but he has taken, and maybe surprisingly, because there was so many in the second half of the season, but because I'm an artist, I didn't say anything about liking to drink. I said just an artist, by the way. Because I'm an artist, I like a goal that's so different. And I was staggered by that back flip of Bruno. Southampton, wasn't it? I mean, I was absolutely staggered because the ball was put across the area. It was behind him. He had no reason to get anywhere near it, and and by the way, it wasn't a fluke. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yes, he did.
Would definitely back that up. He knew what he was doing, and because the minute he flicked it, if you keep watching the goal, he wasn't surprised. You sometimes see a look on a guy's face, flick. Good God, it's gone in. It wasn't one of them. It was boom, in the net. Thank you. Great goal. That, for the sheer audacity of it, it's got to be goal of the season. I ended up thinking, if a few goals, Bruno, this supposedly defensive midfield player, what about the winner in the 95th minute when he ran from virtually his own penalty area? I'm still giving it to the flick, but he ran from his own penalty area to their penalty area for the diving header that won the game. We were going 2-2, and he won the game with the header. Now, yes.
And just a minute before, Johnny had been breathing out of his backside.
Oh,
he was
absolutely. He was dead on his feet. He had given the game everything. There was no petrol left in the tank, and he thought, I'm going to have one charge up the field. And the adrenaline caught, and wasn't it wonderful the ball came from? Because if he'd done that, and St. Maximum had been on the ball and checked out and checked in and then checked out again, he would have been lying on the ground like a hippo by the time the ball came over. It came over terrifically. It was a wonderful, wonderful header. So that was my second goal. The first one was Bruno's back flick. The second one was that. Yes, there was Miggy Almiron's one where he went through it inside right and put it in the far corner. You know why that was a terrific goal? Because it was his only goal. That's why it was a terrific goal. Because it was his only one of the season. It was a good goal. I'm being flipped. It was a terrific goal. But we don't see enough of those from Almiron. That is his problem. And I read today, bless him, and there's nobody with a bigger heart. There's nobody that wants to be a success more than he wants to be a success. But if we say St. Maximum has got blinkers on, which Malcolm has eloquently talked about in the past, then this guy has blinkers on as well, because he doesn't get his head up and he doesn't see things. And I read today, guys, that he said, you know what, when Almiron was going well, when Bushy was here and we didn't have a lot of competition, etc., his agent was always suggesting, not Miggy, his agent, was always suggesting he was sort of too good for us and he might have to move on, and that threat was there. All of a sudden, his agent's saying today, oh, he's gonna stay at Newcastle because he's playing, etc., and reveals that his release clause in his contract is 60 million quid. Well, there's more chance of me marrying Marilyn Monroe than there is, and by the way, she's dead, than there is of Miggy Almiron.
Yeah, plus it would make you a bigamist.
Yes, you got me there, big man. But isn't it ludicrous? I mean, you know, that is what they put release clauses in, something that nobody will pay. Unfortunately, Chris Wood's 25 million was payable, and I know it surprised him when Newcastle paid it, because he thought, as Burnley thought, that fee nobody would pay it, and we did. But somebody pays 60, with respect to Miggy. Can you imagine somebody paying 60 million quid for Miggy? I mean, at the moment, of course, he's staying at Newcastle from his point of view. He's got 2 years left on his contract, etc.
Yeah.
But if Newcastle could get a few quid for Miggy, they would sell him. There's no question about that. And as for his agent saying, well, he's happy because he's been playing. You know why he's been playing? Because Ryan Fraser wasn't fit. That's why he's been playing.
Yeah.
So Miggy's goal was terrific. Well done him. Bruno, by a million miles, won it. And if he hadn't won it for his backflip, and in my opinion he did, and in Malcolm's opinion, much more important, he did, then it would have been his header after that massive 100-yard dash for me as well. So Bruno for me. Okay,
fantastic. So here we go. The final category is Player of the Season. You can vote for it at nufcmatters.com. We will give the official result on Friday night on the Amigos show. Mal, who has been your Newcastle United Player of the Season?
Well, I've got to be honest, I haven't got a Player of the Season, but I can give you a Player of the half the season, because there wasn't anybody who stood out other than performing horrendously in the first half of the season, and the second half. Well, we've already discussed just how uniquely different that all was. If I had to give a Player of the Season award, I'm really looking at the signings that came in, and so Trippier did great stuff, but sadly got injured. But who has so impressed me in midfield is energy and the way he infuses other players all around him is Bruno. And I really can't look further than that fella. There was an interesting thing that Eddie Howe did, and it was leaving me scratching my head, thinking, why is he doing this? If you remember, the first 5 games, he just sat Bruno on the bench and just let him watch. And I kept trying to think, well, why is he doing it? Why is he doing it? And still the wondering goes on. But I think that the reason for it was that he, having never played Premiership football, that anyhow, he just wanted the fella to watch and get a feel for the pace of it, the feel of the physicality of it, and of course, once he went on, he suddenly became this instant success. But this guy is a genuine player. He is just going to get better and better and better. And I think that enthusiasm that he put out on the park, I think it sparked all the players around him. Apart from 1 or 2, but they didn't last very long in the side. And so I'm going to give Player of the Season award to Bruno, but from the beginning of January onwards, there were a number of contestants. It could be Joe Linton, it could be Emil Kraft even, for such huge improvement. But and Trippier, of course, Trippier was so important in starting the turnaround. And I think Bruno, he came in that little bit later, and he in turn finished it all off for us, and did it brilliantly. So yeah, my man's as player of the season is Bruno.
Great stuff. Player of the season, Gibbo?
Yeah, well, you said that the votes are coming in to be announced on Friday, and I happen to have some inside gen that I can pass on that Jack Grealish has put his vote in for Miggy Almiron. So I mean that could be the one that sways everything and changes the whole conception. And I also have an inside line on this summer transfer deals that Almiron is actually going to Manchester City for 60 million quid. So there's a couple of things for you to chew on over the next few days.
Oh, well, it's not a player swap for Grealish, is it, John?
No, because I think that Eddie Howe said he didn't want to take Grealish because having Grealish was like a poor Almiron, so he doesn't want him. So he won't be coming to us. No, he won't be coming to us. Right. I'm enjoying myself too much. We'll have to stay on air, Steve. This is getting too good. Player of the year for me, I mean, definitely signing of the year, Bruno. Best player in terms of ability, Bruno. I'm going to go for Joe Linton because it started before January with Joe Linton, and also it's eye-popping. I mean, Bruno is Bruno is Bruno. What Newcastle did was realise what a good player he is. What Arsenal did was think he might be a good player, and they didn't act quick enough to get him. We acted quick enough, and we got him. And aren't we grateful for that? But I'm going to go for Big Joe because what he did was staggering. And I'm also biased because at the beginning of November, I put on the Chronicle website that I thought Joe Linton, who was a desperate centre forward, had a good player inside him and perhaps a move to midfield, as startling as that might sound, might work. And I got a lot of feedback which was very anti or ridicule what I said. There was a lot of fans with big hearts that were agreeing with my original assessment of Joe Linton, which is he was a waste of space. And, moving in the midfield, are you joking, Gibbo? Have you been sniffing glue? Have you been out on the town? What are you doing? Etc. But that was the beginning of November. By the end of November, when we had that horrendous game against Norwich, where we only drew 1-1 against one of the two worst sides in the Premier League by a million miles. And we got dear old Kieran Clark. Can you remember him? He used to be with us. He got sent off in 9 minutes. And in the reshuffle, Joe Linton was played in midfield because Eddie had obviously seen something in training. He was a revelation. Eddie kept him there. Eddie deserves all the credit. No, mate, Eddie did it. Eddie deserves 50% of the credit. Joe Linton deserves the other 50% of the credit. But yeah, wonderful times. I'm going to go for Joe Linton. And I tell you what, when Joe Linton signed for Newcastle United and played in my very favourite position at Newcastle United, which is number 9, I was on the verge of cutting not just my throat, but both my wrists as well. And I never thought I would ever be sitting here and saying Joe Linton is, without question, Newcastle's player of the year. I love him to death, and he's definitely worth 40 million. So that tells you how much Newcastle's changed.
John, sitting with you in the press box say 6 months ago, if I had said to you at the end of this season, you are going to vote Joe Linton as the player of the season,
if I'd said to you at the end of this season, Newcastle are going to be 11th top, you would have thought I was loopy as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been one of those years, hasn't it?
It wasn't Toon Army. It wasn't Toon Army. It was Toon Around Army. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Like
Absolutely
Stephen.
fantastic. Very good. Great as always, lads. And as the consummate professionals you are, you've hit the hour mark with your season review. So we'll be back next week, and we are doing something a little bit different. We're going to start reviewing Malcolm's time at the club, John.
Yeah, we are. And terrific time. Warm memories for me from this brash, bow-legged guy with the old sideburns strutting into Newcastle United, and I thought, what is this young Cockney bugger going to do here? I hope he's half as good as he thinks he is, and he was actually twice as good as he thought he was. So it was a terrific time for us all, and it'll be a wonderful trip down memory lane for me, and I hope I pull a few special memories out of Malcolm's memory box as well.
I'm sure you will, John.
We will do. We'll pull up a few classics, I'm sure, and I will have the photographs ready. Don't you worry about that.
Oh dear.
Just want to point this out as well. Graham Pestle sent us this on Twitter. Last time anyone used one of these, he went, "This is my SUPERMAC beer mat."
Oh.
Excellent.
That was excellent. Newcastle Breweries, wasn't it?
Yeah, excellent. That.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that, Graham. I've sat on that for a while and just found it. So yeah, Graham, lovely lovely memories, and I'm sure we'll have many more over the next few weeks as we go season by season.
Beer on it, by the way.
No, he didn't. No, he wants to keep it in good condition by the looks of it. But absolutely fantastic, great stuff, lads. Thanks again, and I'll see you both next week.
All right, have a good week, everybody.
God bless.